Good morning, everyone. Varel here, Flow Roofing out of Portland, Oregon, the Attic Ventilation Pros. And that is the topic of today. As I'm drafting up these 43 buildings for their ventilation plans here coming up, I'm realizing that I don't know if we've ever really had a conversation about my beliefs around attic ventilation. And so it's in the name. We are the Attic Ventilation Pros. And since the beginning, we always have taken an inside-out approach in believing that, well, if your steep slope shingles, your asphalt didn't last as long, we look to the ventilation, same as the manufacturers. Why did this system not make it 30 to 50 years like it says it's going to on paper? Excuse me. So we're going to dive into really kind of the boring stuff when it comes down to how we approach attic ventilation. We try to take as much of an engineering approach as possible, and really that's breaking a thing into a system and making a system that properly flows, because air literally needs to flow through your attic space. Okay, simple enough. And yes, I know this isn't going to be the most sexy video. This is probably going to make people's eyes glaze over, but it's super necessary. And I look at the specifications that engineers are sending us. Some of these other GCs are speccing out. I look to their specs and I compare it to what the manufacturers are calling for, and it's across the board. It looks like, for the most part, people believe in ridge venting overall, which is good to hear, And I think I've only had maybe one or two customers now out of thousands that would say, I don't want ridge vent, right? Because they're fearful that water might get in or something. And there's a bunch of ways you can combat all that detail. And in not every case is ridge vent appropriate. And we're going to go over not is every ridge vent created equal. So in this particular case, I've got a batch of engineers that think that the shingle vent 2 is like the answer to their problems. And for the most part, some of these buildings are primarily ridge, like heavy on the ridge. I'm looking at maybe probably like almost 1,500 feet of ridge between all these buildings. Just ridge, not hip and ridge. Okay, so there's one or two, because some of these have like duplicates of the same architecture. Some of these have not enough ridge, and there's a law of diminishing returns, which again, it just stems from letting the numbers do the talking. If a ridge on a building has less than 20 feet of ridge, true ridge, we're not talking about dormer. Dormers being like the little bump outs sometimes on each of the gables. Sometimes they have a window, sometimes they're just decorative. The dormers kind of can break up the flow of some of the fluid dynamics, but that's getting pretty in the weeds. And again, I think to keep this as clear as possible for as many clients, as many other roofers as possible, just using common language is going to be the best bet. And I'm not claiming to be some world-class physicist by any means, but air is a gas that acts like a fluid, and in a closed space, the reason why air is flowing through any attic is due to pressure. Okay, I was explaining this to one of my reps yesterday. I was like, try breathing. What's happening? Your lungs are creating a void, a low pressure space where, because the air in the atmosphere is at a higher pressure, air enters your lungs, and it requires energy, because it's a system, and if you're not pumping the system, you're not going to get air that'll fly. I don't know why my hold on here. This site just took a turd here. Let's see if it'll go the other direction. Okay. A couple other notes. We've got teams up in Olympia right now, and that scope's expanding due to a couple different issues, some rot they're running into. But I think we're also going to be sending teams out to Boise, which is fun. But back to attic ventilation. Come on now, focus here, boy. Here we go. Alrighty. So with all of this, the difference is the law of diminishing returns. So 20 feet is the threshold where less than, and this is our standards, okay? And this is how I train my production team so that when they're creating these ventilation plans for our single family clients, we can explain the reasoning really, which is just like showing the numbers to the client that, hey, you don't have enough ridge. We're going to have to look at RVOs or your box vents, aka the turtle vents, to accommodate enough ventilation for your square footage to create functional flow. Functional flow is a lot more important than pretending like, oh, I did my job and it's actually, I did enough penetrations. I think it's going to work, right? Like, go ahead and as you guys are looking around at all these roofs, as one does, and over the years, everyone I've ever brought on is just like, I can't stop looking at roofs. Like, cool, you got the bug. You're flowing now. Cool. The RVOs come in a bunch of different flavors, right? You can get 38s, 49s, and 60s. There's some other options too for mechanical devices. But when it comes down to whether or not your building is appropriate, or let's just say the attic space, because in some cases, commercial, there's firewalls, and so you can break up units in the attic space if it's multifamily with firewalls, and then you have to look at each individual space and see what does that space need versus what does the building need, because it could be completely different. So depending on the architecture of the roof, the attic space, if there's not a well thought out plan, then it's not going to be functional. Okay. And it like, for what I understand about intake from what I've seen in attic spaces, is that if you aren't thinking about functionality, then you're not doing anyone a favor. If you're just putting product up there and blindly putting it on the roof, not just intentional where it goes on the roof, not just the quantity, but where it goes on the roof, is just as important as it being balanced. Let's look at, for the example, picture a single family ranch style house, okay? 2 fields, 2 planes on each side of the gable of the ridge, right? No dormers, let's just say it's a 50-foot eave on each side, which means it's probably going to be a 50-foot ridge, okay? So to keep the math simple, granted, this is another little standard that we always integrate. And you'll see some of these roofs as you're starting your journey of looking at roofs every single day. And, excuse me again, when you look at the approach on the intake, you'll see, I'm talking about like just everyone else. Go take a drive around your neighborhood. Take a drive around you won't have to go far, and you'll see there's differences in how the intake and the ridge is installed around these different buildings. Could be a same goddamn neighborhood. Could be the same builder on the same house, same year, same roof architecture, and you're going to see a different approach on the intake with different products on the ridge. And it all stems from a lack of training, a lack of belief, a lack of experience, a lack of standards that are going to make the client get the best ROI out of something they don't completely understand or don't know what they're getting. Okay. So education is so vital in creating quality systems that flow together on the roof. And again, you guys are probably glazed over. Let's chill. Where I'm coming from with my beliefs in roofing is probably 80% experience and 20% spec. Okay. So in the specifications for the parties that we serve, they're not at your Master Elite 50 year or your Emerald Premium 50 year, or your 5-star certainteed. Okay. I don't even put Owens Corning and some of those other brands into these buckets, but these other asphalt manufacturers that believe that they have the highest specs in their warranties, when our engineers, our partners, go in and build out these systems because maybe there's been workmanship issues on the complex, or and these guys, they're not doing single family. Okay, so it will trickle down to single family because the steep slope on asphalt shingle is a steep slope asphalt shingle across, whether it's multifamily, commercial, or single family. Air still has to flow. Okay, just the idea of doing it, going overboard on a single family, really doesn't resonate with the single family homeowner, because generally y'all on a budget and you want the biggest bang for the buck. And when you're comparing apples to apples and you go, well, roofer A is giving me a ridge vent and a 50-year warranty and it's 10 grand, and roofer B is giving me a ridge vent and a 50-year, but it's 14 grand, and you're giving me this system at 12.5, but and it's a ridge vent, but I don't understand. So there's so much variance, drives you crazy. So 1 second here. Okay, George just coming in a little early. I love it. So not all ridge vents create equal. The variance in the quality of the products is so widespread. It's an economic epidemic. Okay, and you get what you get in a capitalistic society. If it's just, you get the skew of products. You get the Hardys versus the cedars versus the rock, for the siding detail. It's the roll-on ridge versus the pieced out, 12 NFA 4-foot stick with no baffle. And I don't even want to say that a 4-foot stick with a baffle and 18 NFA is the best ridge vent. There's so many different options. And again, I'll kind of give you my 2 cents at the end of the products that we install. It's widely available, and it's just, for me, having seen it function versus the industry leaders, I was like, I don't need to see anything else. Like, that is twice as efficient as anything else I've ever seen. So we're not talking mechanical here. We're talking passive ventilation detail. Passive meaning that there's no mechanical or electrical or energy input into the system, and that it's all working off of pressure as wind and thermodynamics come into play with heat rising and all these different little things. So again, the engineers, like, I don't want to say that Flow does engineered roofing systems, okay? But what we see are engineers speccing out way better roofs than the manufacturers. And, well, don't the manufacturers have billions of dollars to pay the best engineers to create the best systems? Actually, the manufacturers pay the engineers and the economists, the accountants, the business dudes to sell as much product as possible and to make a decent enough system, only so that it lasts long enough so that they can sell more product. Okay? So buyer beware. You think your manufacturer's got your best interest at hand. They all jumped on the 50-year warranty because they understood that home ownership turnover on average is 7 to 10 years. Okay? So all you people going after these 50-year warranties, which are complete bullshit, and the reason why they're fucking 4 to 6 pages, excuse me, French, is so that they can get out of the warranty. So that if you don't maintain the roof and you don't keep record of the roof and you don't, or if you pre-treat it for whatever reason, and that's not even including workmanship, they will not honor your warranty. Good luck. And that's where you should be considering firms like Directory.com with Dmitry Lipinski to go after and be that third party who vets out, one, the installer, but will stand by the product when the manufacturers won't, or finding a contractor who has an in-house warranty, because who's going to have time for 6 to 24 months of headache, aka back and forth with a manufacturer who's not going to give you shit because he'll come out and find something wrong with your system or ask for your maintenance record, whatever the fuck, and good luck. So, by the way, my 2 cents, I don't have much experience with manufacturer product warranty claim. I can only speak from standing by my workmanship, whereas I've never had a malarkey product claim. And I feel like it's not completely the case, but it's contributed by doing the ventilation detail right, trying to give people the best systems possible, not looking to save the most money. There was a 2-year stint, and the reason why there was a fallout with me and one of my suppliers, because he was taking advantage of me back in the day when I didn't know better, and was selling me $160 rolls of synthetic, okay? And I was like, I need the best for my clients, and they're like, of course, kid, go ahead. Have your synthetic, cool, we'll put your logo on it. Got me. And so now, again, like Roofing Insights, BEM, giving us a superior product at like $40 a roll. And to think back, and the reason why I called out the supplier, and I was like, John, what the fuck? Like, you were there in the beginning. Like, we went and got lunch together. You were treating me like a king. You offered me all this shit. So what the fuck? Again, the manufacturers probably see, and you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes. If they're a distributor, not a manufacturer, sorry. If they're a distributor and they're after producing the most for their outfit, and maybe they're just like QXO bought Beacon. If they're a publicly traded company, right, they're only going to be looking out for how much product they can push for the numbers, because they're all measured by these corporate KPIs and bullshit. They're not after giving you the best, right? They want to give you the most. Quantity over quality. So John has since rectified the relationship through a legendary move that we'll talk about with this project, actually. And we'll expand more on what we mean there when we go through and we walk through our work order details. Right now we're at like 18 pages for the ventilation detail, and I think we still have a couple reports coming in to finish like the last 6 buildings. And then we got to do the math. Okay, so my commitment to my team is to test them on how well they understand the ventilation plans by printing out these reports and giving them homework, literally, and saying, okay, I want you guys to go ahead and show me your numbers, and we're going to compare notes, and we're going to cross off, we're going to check mark, we're going to circle, we're going to red ink. We got class. And we're gonna come in here and we have some serious lessons, only because these are not single-family ranch-style houses. These are multi-family, multi-complex, firewalled, 2-3-story, 10, 12 plus, highly insulated with ventilation detail spec'd out to the nines. Okay, and so I want to know where's my team, right? These guys are some high caliber individuals, and I feel like I never could have surrounded myself with better people. And so, but it's really, you don't know until you know, right? So let's do some work here, boys. So, again, the spectrum of how ventilation varies across the industry is kind of annoying. When I drive around, because all I do is look at roofs and gutters, and I'm like, what the fuck, like, are they doing to, like, the homeowners that don't understand? Or, maybe it's a tenant occupied space, the homeowner is just an investor, or it could be fucking BlackRock and it's just part of their, who the fuck knows? But they don't understand what they're getting, and no one's taking the time to educate them around how their system that they're buying may last 10 plus years more if they do it right the first time. You spend 10% more, a little bit of money, 5% more on time, but you get 30+% ROI on a system that'll last longer. Okay, why is also, I mean, this isn't for just anyone, but like, my question is, California's got Title 24, which is a minimum SRI index, which is proportional to basically aligning that lighter color has more reflectivity, which has a higher SRI. And so now all new construction has like a minimum SRI index of like 20 plus in Title 24. And so like, why isn't the entire world jumping on that train to help with just creating a better biosphere, a symbiotic, flowing coexistence with the planet? Whereas, it's capitalistic. Not everyone, these systems are already expensive, okay? But doesn't it make sense that, like, you trust the engineering to make your Toyota Corolla make it to 250,000 miles almost without question? It's expected, okay? Keep in mind, though, you don't make it to even 100,000 miles if you don't maintain your system, okay? Thus, the reason why you need your annual inspections, all right? So 2 cents on, like, preventative maintenance, okay? It's critical. That being said, not all these systems are created equal. Manufacturers across the board, they all jumped on the stupid 50-year train only because they need to sell more product, because the bottom line, their investors are pushing them, right? You need to sell more ridge, like, put your labels on those boxes and push it through. They're just fucking washing the quality of the construction industry. And we wonder why, like, we look to the European building standards of the churches that are still standing hundreds of years later, and we say, yeah, that building's actually probably going to make it another 500 plus years because of the quality of the materials involved and the workmanship, right? What if some of those churches took hundreds of years to build? I've never been to Europe, besides touching Portugal, I guess, and Spain on the coast. I wouldn't consider that like going into Europe at all. It was to go take a look at Nazarene to be like, wow, the waves. So keep in mind, these manufacturers don't have your best interest at heart, okay? That the manufacturers, like so many other roofing companies now, that because we'll go over a separate private equity video here, not today. The private equities they came into roofing 4 or 5 years ago, and they're still buying everyone up. Just like they came into the early 2000s in the HVAC industry, and that's prior to any of my construction experience besides helping Dad. So all that being said, okay, careful, do your fucking homework when you're looking at these systems. So when we're challenged with making 43 building reports, multifamily with firewall, steep slope, all considering different architecture, we're sending in 3 or 4 inspectors to these buildings, coordinated with the tenants, the occupants, okay? Specified by the engineers and the GCs running the project. Flow, we're the subcontractor, okay? We start as a subcontractor, we hold the subcontractor mindset that really helps keep our blades sharp, right? And make sure that our biggest clients also get the best value, for one. But it ensures, too, that we stay fucking hungry. It's the underdog mindset. So we'll expand on all those things in a different video. But right now, for ventilation purposes, if I'm sending 2 or 4 people into these buildings, these complexes, and we're running through the attics, we're creating documentation to look at all the different firewall plans, to make recommendations and to find proper placement, proper placement is just as important. So, excuse me, some of these buildings are so dormer heavy. I'll just show you here for a second. You guys, I'm probably like, you don't even look at anything. Some of these buildings are so dormer heavy, like the ventilation plan's going to skew so much. Look, there's not a simple roof plan. I don't even have enough ridge right there. There's no simple way to place intake or ventilation detail on some of these roofs. Okay, so when we're looking at the phasing and the staging and the overall just ventilation plan, I'll tell you right now, the biggest part of this spec is the ice and water placement. It's insane. We've got maybe 2 or 3 semi-truck loads of ice and water coming in on one project, okay? So what do? You order heavy. You order heavy so you can get that bulk pricing for the rest of your customers, okay? That's strategy number 1. But these ventilation plans are going to be approved by our team before they go to the GC for them to approve, before they go to the engineer, before them to approve, before they go to the manufacturer. And they don't give a fuck. They'll look at things and go, yeah, it looks okay, and then they'll fuck you over, right? So 4 different levels of ventilation approval before this thing gets installed. Go ahead and say flow roofing's fake. All I know is how to flow, and that these ventilation plans will be the most buttoned down for this complex than any other project we've worked on. Why? The engineers that we're working with are some of the top tiered people. They come from, I can't even say it, but there's just such a small club that, you know, and my lawyers knows this small ring of dudes, and I'm like, please tell me about it, Jason. Like, I need a seat at this table. So this is my guarantee to them in the industry that their clients are going to be taken care of, to make them look good. We're in it. I hate this as much as I hate saying I don't like saying that. We're in it to make them get the letters of recommendation and sit back and look cool, calm, and collect. We don't need any credit whatsoever. We want them to look like the fucking superheroes, okay? A true partner for them to go in and know, when they call flow, they're going to get the job done right, that they're going to do the homework, that they're going to put the products in. Now, we're going to submit an alternate, right? We want to get a change made up here because the products they're trying to have installed don't necessarily have the best interest of the building in mind. So let's just break down the ridge vent now, okay? So you can have rolled systems, you can have rigid plastic systems, you can have 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch. I haven't seen anything past 12-inch wide, okay? Matters for the type of protection that you're talking about. We've got pictures, we could not believe this, actually, I'll post it somewhere, but we've seen someone put rolled Qualtrics ridge vent, one piece under one ridge vent, one more piece under another ridge cap. Like, it became apparent to us really quick as we're flowing through this that the industry doesn't have a grasp on proper ventilation detail, okay? And I'll say that to optimize a system, and we call our systems max flow systems because we're optimizing for proper functional flow. So our max flow systems are spec'd out to meet engineering standards and we do this for all single family, we do it for all multifamily as well, to ensure the best functionality. That air is literally, again, going to flow through the attic space. In not every case will a system be as optimal as you'd like it to be on paper due to the architecture of the roof, okay? I know we started talking about product, but that's a huge important disclaimer that maybe the building is 30 by 50, you have 1,500 square feet, and your minimum code is a ratio of 1 to 300, and you divide the 1,500 by 300, and you say, cool, I need 5 square feet of exhaust, and you balance that with intake. And that's all measured in a unit called NFA, which is net free area. And I feel like maybe we should have probably started with the terminologies and the units in the beginning, but you got it now. If you're still around, cool. That being said, to create optimized systems, you need the best products. If you're relying on the manufacturer's sticker NFA values, you're not doing your own due diligence. You're a puppet being told what to do, right? And you're being lazy by trusting that they know what they're talking about and that you don't have to think about the proper way to ventilate an attic system. And for anyone that's doing the numbers, cheers. Like, you guys are my favorite. Like, we're going to have eventually, hopefully a ventilation summit someday. And we can just do fucking numbers on whiteboards for hours and to lock in what it truly means to optimize for functionality. Okay. Sounds terrible. All right. So, product, there's intake and exhaust in a balanced ventilation system. Your intake can be at the soffits, right? And so this is important to give you context too. We're in the Pacific Northwest, 3 hours south of Seattle, smack dab Portland, very mild climate. It's going to be kind of wild. What we had 60s just last week, and now this week it's jumping into the 80s out of nowhere. And here's what I see. My algorithm shows me that the Northwest could actually see some northern lights. I'm like, well, okay, where's the ozone to kind of protect us from? It's just part of whatever the solar electromagnetic field is around the planet. I don't understand all that jazz. But a solar flare came through, smacked into the earth, I'm sure, and that's part of what we're seeing is this like photovoltaic. I should look into why the northern lights is a thing, but the reason why we're seeing it down in Oregon, I feel like is a little strange when it correlates with the increased temperatures. I'm like, I see those two. I'm like, oh, we have no control. If one of those solar flares fucks us up, like, don't matter how much ventilation you have, we're screwed. So, back to the product. The intake at your soffits and your eaves is supposed to climb to your ridge in a perfect world. And the reason why box ventilation systems are less desirable, even though you can achieve the same NFA with boxes, is because of hot pockets. Hot pockets in your system at your ridge. You can look up at some of these older houses and maybe they only have like a single family ranch style, could be 50, 60 feet long, but maybe it only has 4, 5, or 6 box vents, okay? And if they're RVO 49, then great. You might be hitting a minimum 1 to 300. But when you look at the eave detail and you got bird blocks that aren't even matching with where the boxes are, in between each of those 8 to 12 foot spaces between the boxes at the ridge, kind of looking back again at a 50 to 60 foot ridge with no other dormers, nothing intrusive. Again, just simplifying the roof to a classic stick figure style roof. And everyone hopefully is visualizing a similar thing. I guess I could draw it. Gosh darn it. Right, stick figure roof. It's just a basic roof, okay? The air that's hopefully not blocked by insulation, that's hopefully baffled correctly, that's hopefully doesn't have paint over the intake, that hopefully has all the different details in the interior, i.e. the right R value, right? Not like quality, trust, nothing sapping out, there's no sag, there's no everything. Like your bird blocks are screened out, but not with like a mesh that's so fine that the paint could clog it, right? So it's functional intake and it's balanced, okay? We're not going to break down the numbers right now. This is not the numbers video. For functionality, air comes in through those, but they have to find boxes, okay? And with the box vents, the house is relying a lot more on thermodynamics, hot air rising, than pressure, okay? The boxes are not designed, there's no louvers involved that promote airflow. The boxes are only acting as a penetration to allow air to escape. And it's more so going to be driven by hot air rising and a little bit of wind pushing at the soffits, the air out of the attic space. And I guess, caveat is I haven't actually proven that. This is what I believe. You don't have to believe what I believe. That between those exhaust ports, 8 to 12 feet apart at the turtle vents, those, you'll see some like scorching happening at the top of the roof. Those areas are, first off, I strongly believe that's dust and not actually like burnt roofing. But that being said, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like on the thermals at those box ports and other areas on the roof as to why air is not properly flowing out of the boxes, okay? And that's where I'll draw the line right there, okay? Let the thermals do the talking, and we'll go over those in a different video. So, shit, just gave away my secret weapon. So, what else? Ridge vent, not all created equal. Intake, not created all equal. A lot of people be shitting on GAF and these rolled Qualtrics roofings because they're just lower quality. You actually do get what you're paying for on those products. And we've found they're kind of an unsightly end product. So when the shingle, 135 pounds per square on average, a single laminate, Malarkey, Vista AR, GAF, Timberline, etc., with all these landmarks, they're 135 plus or minus 145 per square, pounds per square. You set that material on plus a starter strip in your ice and water, sandwiching your intake, your ventilation. If it's on a foam or non-structurally rigid plastic louver, like some of the products that we'll go into after we talk about the differences in the systems of the components, and we only have maybe 5 to 10 more minutes, but that weight will crush and lower, again, the functional flow over time. And I guess, keep in mind, for all you people that are interested in getting roofs done, that whether you're single family, multifamily, that your contractor doesn't give a fuck after the fact that they step away from the roof, right? Workmanship aside, they don't give a fuck after the install is completed about what happens on your roof outside of workmanship, hopefully, if they're quality, what will happen in a decade or two. They're not looking, no one in the roofing is going to be into making sure that you don't ever have to buy a roof again. They're after making sure that they can get in, get out, get the best margin out of your project at your expense because you don't know enough about ventilation detail. The shingle is just half the game. It's also how it's installed, but then it's how you install them, okay? I mean, you could have the best ventilation, you get the best shingle, you get the best fucking underlayment. If your flashing's not done right, you're shot, okay? There's no point in investing all this if the workmanship's garbage, okay? So, but if this helps anyone understand ventilation better in a steep slope shingle application, then hopefully that's why I'm recording. So, cheers again. We're learning. So, functionality for ventilation detail is the most critical. Again, not taking just the manufacturer's word for NFA, net free area of the components being installed, but then how they're being installed, how they're being flashed in with your ice and water matters as well. I can vet a good crew if I need to by saying, how do you do your intake? And I'll lay out all the components out in front of them, and I'll say, cool, here's $250. Go ahead and cut me a ridge and intake system. We'll see how they do it. Do they use starter strip? Do they use ice and water? How are they, where are their cuts? Are they snapping their lines? Am I getting this? Is this crew really understand what I'm looking for? Or are they just like, oh, Gringo's paying me $250 to install a couple feet of ventilation detail. Yes, sir. Smile and wave, smile and wave. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Let me see it. Come on now. So that being said, we believe in a 12-inch ridge vent for added protection on both sides of the ridge, okay? We believe in a specific ventilation plan for the intake on how it's installed and where it's installed and what we install, okay? The products that we install are only Lamenco across the board. Oh, you gave away the product. God, I'll tell you right now, the reason why is because they have added protection with the 12-inch. Cool. Owens Corning, everyone else has got that. Cool. I've seen with my own eyes, I've been to the promised lands of seeing a ridge functionally clear this smokehouse where you can visualize the fluid dynamics of the airflow. Clearing the smokehouse twice as efficiently as the industry leaders across all manufacturers. We order Lamenco by the pallet. It's by far the best product on the market. Until I find something better, I stand by Lamenco with everything we install. It's 12 inches at the ridge for added protection for the handful of people that were out there that questioned ridge vent, that made a mistake. They go into boxes, now their attic's overheating. Even if we added extra, they're not flowing properly. They should have gone with Lamenco. Lamenco as well has a legendary intake. That intake is one of the only on the market that can act as an exhaust when placed properly. So if you got a roof-to-wall detail here, this is your garage, okay, but you got your second-story house here. You need to ventilate your garage. Now, manufacturers, again, don't give a fuck. They call that a non-livable space. So you're not going to technically need to ventilate that area. And if you get a shitty contractor, they're not going to ventilate it for you anyway. I don't want to spend the extra money on the materials. I don't want to take the extra time and labor to do it right. I don't give a shit about you customers. They're going to go in and say, it's a non-live-in space. And just because of that, I don't have to install ventilation because the manufacturer said so. They're going to cop out. And you're going to be left with an overheating garage. Your fucking refrigerator full of beer is not going to cool as fast. Your kids' handlebars are going to fucking melt off their goddamn bikes. The handle grippers, they can get like tacky overheated. So, anyway, Lamenco's got that intake when properly placed that can actually function as a really nice low profile exhaust, and it functions. So again, hard plastic louver, not rolled roofing. Over time, these hard plastic louvers are not going to sag. They're going to maintain functionality. They have the same lifetime warranty as all the others. Guys, that's my 2 cents on attic ventilation. Okay. And so why do we call ourselves the Attic Ventilation Pros? When I got into roofing, the first thing I did was jump into the attics and was like, holy shit. You said no one else went into your attic? How can you make an educated decision about your roof without seeing it from the inside out, right? Roofing is not just the top down, okay? We already said it. Get a fucking tattoo sometime maybe saying something about the inside out. I don't know. I don't want to make it sexual, but so let's keep it professional here. So you guys kind of understand where we stand now, all right? Go ahead, roast me. So here, caveat 2 at the end. This is, again, for the Pacific Northwest. We're not talking about conditioned attic spaces, which is a completely different beast for humid zones, okay? There's YouTube channels on conditioned attic spaces. In the Northwest, we do not have conditioned attic spaces. It's really just classic attic ventilation with our value insulation, architecture of the structure itself, building use matters as well. Overall, what is your risk tolerance? What is your investment strategy? What are your value-based decision-making principles? These are the things that are going to matter for you. If you care about your house, you care about your investment, your portfolio, doing your roof right from the inside out is the best ROI. Okay. And I train my team to make sure that these specs are followed to a T, to make sure that our insurance is happy, to make sure our GCs look good, to make sure that our clients have peace of mind. Okay. And our project managers do a fucking great job at making sure this shit gets done. So what else? Inspectors are going to be given a baseline education on this. Inspectors are not going to be someone who's going to be able to break down the numbers for you. We do all the back end work when you guys are ready to move forward. When we start flowing together, then you get this back end homework stuff. You don't get this on the front end. Well, I want to see him do the algebra where you do oyster different. Where are you going to put the vanilla? Why this or that? Right? Cool. We'll explain it to you. But not everyone believes in what we believe. And so they don't see the value. And so they don't believe that there's going to be a better ROI. And that's fine. I'm not here to please everyone. But for those that do have standards, for those that do want it done right by the spec, over and beyond what manufacturers require, we're here for you. So, alrighty. Got to go ahead and get everything else ready. We're going to work on these last couple pieces before everyone comes through. And we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. Ciao.